Good morning and welcome to our second solid waste session. Today we'll be discussing break free from plastics. I am your host and moderator, Ruth Abbey from Zero Waste USA. I have over 25 years of experience in resource management and sustainability, supporting communities and businesses on the journey to zero waste. I will be presenting on the global impacts of single-use plastics. Good morning. I'm Ruth Abbey with Zero Waste USA, and I'm going to be talking about the global impacts of single-use plastics and what we can do to reduce them. So first of all, as you are all probably aware, we are drowning in plastic. This is a picture from a beach cleanup event that Paul Martinson and I did in Hong Kong about a year and a half ago. And you can see this really big impact of plastics on the beach. Here are the bottle caps that Paul collected from the beach cleanup. Hundreds of thousands of them in just, about an hour of picking up. And here is an example of the impacts of plastic at LA Harbor. You can see this is the city of Los Angeles in California, USA. And here is the street in Delhi. So as you can see, we are really drowning in plastics. And plastic is among the 5 most deadly of the ocean trash. It includes fishing gear, plastic bags, balloons, cigarette butts, and bottle caps. And they're impacting our wildlife, including the Laysan albatross, which are a midway island in the middle of the Pacific. They feed the plastic to their babies, and it really impacts them. As you can see, you've probably all seen the tremendous impacts of plastic on the albatross. But plastics also show up in our fish. This is a fish that was caught in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, which had pieces of plastic in its belly. We eat those fish, right? So if we are good, if if fish eat the plastic and we eat the fish, eventually we are going to have plastic in ourselves. We found plastic fibers all over the world in tap water. This is a study from 2017. And as you can see, from the tests that were conducted in the US, 94% of the samples, 94% of the samples had plastic fibers in our water, in our tap water. And down here in New Delhi in India, 82%. So you can see there's a tremendous impact on our health and on the environment. When we consume microplastics, it has an impact on our bodies as well. We can obstruct our airways, lung disease, cancer. So really good reasons. These are all really compelling reasons to reduce single-use plastics. Plastics are among the top 10 collected items on beach cleanups. You can see plastic beverage bottles, food wrappers, bottle caps, straws, plastic bags, and plastic lids. So we're really focused on the impacts of plastics. And I'm sure you've heard the statistic, but I'll tell it to you again, that at our current rates of production, by 2050, there will be more plastic by weight in the ocean than fish. So we really have to do something to reduce. They make the plastic. And who is they? Some of our biggest brands: Coca-Cola, PepsiCo, Unilever, Nestle, Procter & Gamble, McDonald's. These are the brands that, when we've conducted beach cleanups, are the most prevalent brands of in our litter on beaches and in production. You can see all of these different brands of plastic bottles. If these end up in the ocean or in the environment, they produce a lot of impacts. And here is the very famous Greenpeace photograph. Coca-Cola, is this yours? we would like you to take care of the plastics. We buy the plastics. So they make the plastic, we buy the plastics. So we have a role in this as well. Here's an example of a Starbucks big plastic container of a frappe or a milkshake. Thousands and thousands of these are consumed every day and have to be dealt with. These are little chip bags at a at a stand in Delhi, and thousands and thousands of chip bags made out of plastics are consumed every day. Plastic packaging is present throughout our everyday life. All kinds of plastic that we consume, our food is enrobed in plastic, and there's something we can do about it. Plastic has been increasing exponentially over the last 50 years, and we need to do something to reduce our reliance on plastic. So we can stop. We can stop through the Break Free from Plastic campaign. So Zero Waste USA is an associate of the Break Free from Plastic campaign, and we work with all of our other affiliates on campaigns to reduce single-use plastics from around the world by making people aware of the impacts and also working on policies to reduce plastic use. Here are some school children in Maryland who lobbied their school district to reduce single-use plastics by banning styrofoam lunch trays and replacing those with reusable lunch trays. Here's some students in Berkeley, California, who helped to lobby their city council in Berkeley to implement their single-use plastic bans and reduce plastics through reuse. And here is a high school group at the Amplify Club in Alameda, California, where I'm from. And they have been working with their restaurants to both reduce single-use plastic at boba tea shops and also replacing single-use disposables at restaurants with reusable containers. They obtained a grant to help purchase the containers and are partnering with Dispatch Goods, which is an organization that started in San Francisco to help restaurants convert from single-use containers for takeout to reusable and returnable containers for takeout. This is a picture of Dispatch Goods. Their reusable containers are made out of metal, and you pick them up at the restaurant, you bring them home, you eat the food, and then Dispatch Goods will come to your house and pick up the containers to take them to an industrial scale washing machine, dishwashing machine, and then return them to the restaurants. They've implemented this program in over 10 restaurants in San Francisco, and then they are launching at 5 restaurants in Alameda, and the goal is to spread this concept citywide in both San Francisco and in Alameda. And you can tell by the shape of these containers, they're very familiar. If you are familiar with tiffins that are used throughout India, this is a sustainable solution to take out foodware. Here's a picture from the Delhi airport, where they also have a single-use plastics ban. And at their Starbucks, instead of that big plastic for their takeout containers, they use paper. And so paper is easier to address through composting or other recycling than plastic, and has less of an impact on the environment. So we can address single-use plastics through new rules. This is my friend, Max, and he has a campaign, hold your butts, meaning your cigarette butts, because you might not know, but cigarette butts are made out of plastic. Those cigarette filters are a plastic source. And when those are littered on beaches, they harm wildlife and the environment. And so in San Francisco, we have implemented a cigarette butt fee so that every single cigarette that is sold in San Francisco has a 2-cent fee on top of that to go towards recycling programs or cleanup programs to reduce the impacts of cigarette butts. But we also work on plastic bag bans, polystyrene bans, plastic straw bans, and requiring reusables, as in Berkeley. So we can stop, and we can stop them. We've lobbied. This is a picture from Zero Waste USA Grassroots Recycling Network campaign on Wall Street to encourage Coca-Cola to commit to use recycled content in their bottles, so that if plastic bottles are produced, they're made out of recyclable plastic. And there has been a commitment on Coke's part to use recycled content in their water bottles and all of their bottles. And in the state of California last year passed a requirement to require all single-use bottles, soda bottles, water bottles to have recycled content to close the loop so that there's less of an impact on the environment and human health. We've launched a campaign to ask Coke and Pepsi to leash their lids. The lids on top of the containers are also getting out into the environment and impact the Laysan albatross. So by connecting the cap and leashing the lid to the cap so that it doesn't fall off and get into the environment, that will reduce the impact on wildlife. We've launched something called the People's Campaign to Save the Pacific Albatross, called Save the Albatross Coalition. And you can join us in our campaign to increase regulation, require manufacturers to leash the lid, more recycled content in their containers, and to help us clean up our environment. So we encourage you to take action through grassroots organizing, policy or political action, legislative action, and legal action. We can do this through changing the norms of behavior, through something called social psychology or behavior change. Community-based social marketing is the concept of actually identifying the barriers and the benefits to an action and working with the affected population to overcome those barriers and take advantage of those benefits. And the most famous community-based social marketing campaign is Don't Mess with Texas. If you've heard the phrase, don't mess with Texas, it's a rallying cry, but it's actually an anti-litter campaign. This campaign was developed by the Department of Transportation in Texas because roadside litter in Texas was, they identified, came from young macho men. So rather than tell them to, keep, Texas beautiful, please don't litter, give a hoot, don't pollute, the most effective messaging was this macho phrase, don't mess with Texas. And it proved to be very effective. Over the course of that campaign, the state of Texas has seen a huge reduction in litter along the roadsides throughout Texas. So together we can save the world. You'll hear from Paul about World Cleanup Day, so I'll let him talk all about the results of that. He is helping to inspire millions of people around the world to pay attention and take one day out of the year to just clean up and create awareness. Part of those campaign includes brand audits to help identify the brands that are the most responsible for all of the litter that we see in our environment. You can see through our brand audits, we sort the materials into different categories and we identify the brands from the beach cleanups. So here were the top polluters. Not surprisingly, they're the same as the top producers of plastics: Coca-Cola, PepsiCo, Unilever, Nestle, Procter & Gamble. All of the favorite brands that people buy are also ending up on our beaches and in our environment. And it affects not only the coastline, but every waterway. All waters lead out to the ocean. And just in our everyday neighborhoods, we see this litter and this blight. So we ask you to join our movement, keep it clean, commit to helping us reduce the impacts of single-use plastics by pursuing zero waste. Thanks so much. Our next speaker is Paul Martinson from the Let's Do It movement. Paul has been involved in resource management for over 20 years and has been traveling around the world promoting zero waste and advocating for environmental cleanups. He is the world ambassador for the Let's Do It World movement and has participated in cleanups in more than 30 countries. He's going to be talking to us about World Cleanup Day, about some of the statistics and achievements, and how you can get involved every September, including this September.
Hello, everybody. My name is Paul Martinson. I'm from Sweden. I work for the World Cleanup Day around the whole world, and I am the director for Oceania because we are divided into 6 different groups, and Oceania is my part. And I just show you now my contacts if you need any other contact, and our hashtag down to the left, which is World Cleanup Day and WCD. I will talk about the importance of making cleanups and what it means to do the cleanup and what World Cleanup Day is and how many years we've been doing it and so on. So let me proceed with the next slide. And that doesn't move here. So I don't know what happened, why it doesn't move. Oh, there it comes, okay. So Let's Do It World is the name of our organization. Let's Do It World, the network. It started in Estonia 2008. Estonia is a small country in the northern Europe with 1.3 million people. And there were a few guys sitting in a cafe and said, we need to clean up our country because it's really dirty and it looks disgusting. So one of the guys, he stood up and he said, okay, let's do it. And that's how the name came up. So Let's Do It. And that's the name we've been carrying now for 13 years. They decided to clean up the country, and they did it in one day. 50,000 people participated, and they were cleaning the whole country, and it was a tremendous success, of course. Then it was increasing, and it was implemented in many, many other countries, just almost by itself, like rings on the water. And today we are in more than 160 countries altogether, so we are a big family. After we've been doing these cleanups in many countries for many years, we decided to do something more radical, and that's why we created the World Cleanup Day, which took place the first time 2018, and we brought out almost 18 million people on that day, which was the 3rd Saturday in September, which always is the World Cleanup Day. And you can see the figures down there. 2019, we brought out almost 21 million. And 2020, in the pandemic year, we had 166 countries, and we brought out 11 million participants in this cleanup action, the World Cleanup Day. It is millions of people had reasons to join and hands-on the largest single peacetime civic action and share their care, love, and happiness despite this global pandemic situation we had. So the main thing for the cleanup day this year was, of course, individual cleanups. Otherwise, we are doing huge group cleanups with a lot of people. The key word for 2020 was, of course, then the individual cleanup. And we empowered all our network with different campaigns also. And the cigarette butt campaign was one campaign we had since June until September, the World Cleanup Day. It was a great success, the cigarette butt campaign, because the cigarette butt is the most littered waste we have on the globe. It's everywhere, and people just throw it away because they think it's not very dangerous. But I will show you how dangerous it can be. And then we also had a plastic bottle campaign. And we also had a trash blindness campaign. And the trash blindness campaign means that people in many poor countries, they are living almost like in a dump. They don't see the waste they have around them. So when you do a cleanup and you see this is the way it should look, and you can do some planting here and have a green garden and surrounding, or you can clean up your port side, or you can clean up your square or whatever it is. And then people see the difference, and then they understand that this is, of course, the way we should have it. It's much more nice and so on. And that is when we say that we cure the trash blindness. And we also introduced 2020 the digital cleanup, and it means you were cleaning all kind of different devices. You have computer, cell phones, iPads, and so on, to clean off all these files you don't need, and also to bring some kind of awareness how you use them and what you should send and not send and so on, because all these traffic on the internet we have causes, of course, a lot of CO2 emissions. This is the reason why we also had the cigarette butt campaign, because cigarettes, as you know, contains a lot of the poisonous stuff, and stuff that is really bad for nature, not only for people. And the filter is actually plastic. So it means if you throw the filter cigarette in nature, you are throwing plastic and microplastics into nature, which are full of different toxic and hazardous stuff. So what people think is that the cigarette butt is tobacco and it looks like it's paper or something. So it will be like composting it, throwing it in nature, but that is not true. It will take many years to get rid of it, if you ever get rid of it. So we have more than 4 trillion cigarette butts going into forest, oceans, rivers, whatever you name. Cigarette butts are everywhere. So that was a very urgent campaign we had, and very successful also. Here are just a few pictures from throughout the world from the cleanup day this year. We collected more than 43,000 tons of waste. The average for each person was like almost 4 kilos. We also engage people in waste sorting and composting by having different kinds of workshops all over the world, because the idea is not as it was from the beginning. We were just collecting waste or picking up waste to put it in bags, and we bagged it, and then it was taken care of the municipality for it goes for landfill or incineration, depending what kind of country you did the cleanup in. So we introduced the zero waste thinking by sorting all the waste also, and then all the things we could send for recycling, we did, and so on, just to bring some kind of awareness for people, and also give them an idea that this waste that you pick up not only make the nature clean, but it also has a value, because you can get some, as we say, trash for cash. On the digital cleanup day, we cleaned 71,000 gigabytes of data, which corresponds to a CO2 reduction of 26.5 tons. So it has a huge impact. If you clean your devices, you can clean it by different apps, and you can also clean it individually. You can take away a lot of old photos and stuff, or big files you don't need anymore. And we collected also 12 million cigarette butts on the World Cleanup Day. And we made brand audits. And brand audit means that we are categorizing all the stuff we find, for example, on a beach. We look who is the producer, where was it produced, and we name all these companies, and we make an Excel sheet, and we make a top 10 list. And there you find all these big companies, you know, like Fanta, Montesela, we have Protector Gamble, and Unilever, General Craft, and all these big companies that are almost the same on every beach all over the world because they are worldwide companies. And then, of course, there are also some local companies that are big in different countries. But brand audit is good to do as a name and shame thing for companies and tell them this is what we found. We found all this stuff. It's yours. You are the producer and so on. So it's a good thing to show people. And we've been making a lot of brand audits. Not only we, but also Break Free from Plastic has done an incredible job for brand auditing, which is fun to do also because people get a little bit more aware of what this is and how it works. How did it end up here and so on? It came by waterways and so on. This is an example also from where we have to pick up plastic, where there has been like a plastic tsunami, which is very common in Indonesia, for example, where the currents from many different oceans are coming into and rivers coming into Indonesia, and it flushes up on the beaches there, and it can look really nasty. This was a big civic action, the World Cleanup Day, 11 million people this year and 33 million volunteer hours. And there is some facts, in Kuwait, for example, it was 45 degrees, and in Canada it was -5. And we had 150 millimeters of rain in Panama, but still people went out and did the cleanup individually or in small groups. And we hit 166 countries. And we were mentioned last year in social media with our World Cleanup and our hashtags 156 billion times altogether compared to the scientific data we have. The participants and the different countries, this is the top list to the left. In Indonesia, brought out 4 million people, and then you have Ethiopia, US 650,000, India 582,000. They are always on the top list for 3 years in India. And on the right side, you can see how many percentage of the population that did participate. Our goal from the beginning with the World Cleanup Day was that we should bring out 5% of the world population, which is about 350 million people. And we made 20 million the second year. So there is still a gap between our goal and what we have reached. But we will do it, don't worry. And with your help, we're going to increase the people for every year. And the World Cleanup Day this year, we hope, can be more like a group cleanup and not only individual. We also do a survey with all our leaders throughout the world, and we had 166 this year, 98 countries answered. And then we could also see what kind of different cleanups they'll be doing in the countries, individual cleanups or group cleanups and digital cleanups and so on, just to have an idea how we are working with these different countries and how it looks in different countries, because there is a huge difference. The waste is almost the same in all the countries, but there is a big difference how people are working in these voluntary networks we have. So to do this survey gives us some interesting and useful data. And we are not only doing cleanups and recycling, we also have educational programs in school for bringing the awareness to the children in school. And we have waste sorting programs in communities. We have on our webpage something we call the Keep It Clean Plan, which is a document that is very, very valuable and free to use. And if you read and study that, then you are going into circular economy and you are going into zero waste thinking, which zero waste always has been circular economy before they start talking about circular economy. We in the zero waste movement always say that we have to keep everything in a loop. And the main thing for the zero waste movement is that you should never put something into the loop that we can't take care of, because then we have a problem. Then we need to redesign that product. We need to be able to take care of it. And now we're also working on more educational programs, and we also work on certification programs for leaders and for people who are participating and want to learn more about waste and waste segregation, and of course about circular economy and zero waste thinking. Media, when it comes to the different channels we are using, if Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and so on, is important for us also, that we are working and sending messages there's all the time, and we try to be active and will be more active with the social media. And if you go to our web page, you can also, of course, ask for our newsletters. So this is what it looks like when we, throughout the year, we are mentioning and we are working quite hard with the social media stuff. And then, of course, it's a huge peak in September when it's getting closer to the World Cleanup Day. And you can see the peak here with so many million people that are participating and how much we are mentioned in media. We also have mapping. We are doing mapping. We are using an app called Trash Out. You can see the logo down to the right side there. So we mapped 4,868 points, waste points all over the world. And it means that people can look in this app and see where there is waste if they want to clean up. But it's also a message that to map up where there are illegal dumps. And that's how we are working with this app, which is very, very easy to use. The name is Trash Out. And if you have a trash point, you can go to this trash point, you can clean it, and then you report that it is cleaned and so on, which happened to 500 points. And we had 63 countries using this app for the moment. And we have been cleaning up 2.3 million kilos by this app also. So why? No, we also have, when we had the World Cleanup Day, we have a media center which is sponsored by the Estonian government and Tallinn, which is the capital of Estonia. So the Tallinn city is also supporting us for the media, because we are broadcasting 24 hours during the World Cleanup Day. And we have more than 100 people volunteering in this call center, because we are calling all the countries all over the world and ask them if they're participating, how they're doing, how much waste they've been working with and taking care of, and so on. And then there is also, of course, a lot of pre-recorded small happenings from the different countries, just to see what it looks like in Togo or what it looks like in Brazil and so on. In Tehran, for example, we were cleaning 17 kilometers of the street, and we were sweeping all the cigarette butts on these 17 kilometers. We went down 40 meters under the water, and we went up 4,000 meters in Peru. So the level between where we are cleaning is a lot. And we also cleaned, a Swiss team cleaned the Rhine River in Europe. All the 6 countries it runs through, they clean part of it. And then there are some fun facts about what we are usually finding in our cleanup is jewelry, money, bicycle, false teeth, firearms, and of course you also will find new friends. So why should we do this cleanup? First, because we try to raise some kind of awareness about the waste pollution. And we also like to help people to take responsibility for the waste. We want to reduce the waste, of course, and we also want to bring the problem of waste to the forefront of people's minds, so they start thinking a little bit about the end of life of product, even when they buy the stuff. Should I really buy this one? Do I really need it? And so on. But by participating in a cleanup, you have proven that you have taken the waste problem seriously, and that you are ready to be a part of the solution. And to be a part of the solution is that you start working with yourself, because everyone counts, and every little steps you take will be counted, and it helps the globe. And it's fun, and it makes you feel good because you are doing something, and you can immediately see the result when you've been cleaning up. It looks nice. And we also then unite and inspire community to prove that the pollution, the waste problem is a serious problem, but we can solve it. It's not that it's not possible to solve it. We can do it. So let's do it. Worldcleanupday.org is our webpage. You can go there, you can download all the material you want. Everything is for free. We are an open network. We have all the different links there. And the cleanup, the World Cleanup Day this year will be the 18th of September. And you can challenge your neighbor, your friends, your family by doing a cleanup. It's easy. We have all the information there. We have a one page which is 13 steps to do a cleanup. So it's very easy to do a cleanup, and it's very useful to participate in it because it brings you close to the waste, and you have it in your hands and you start cleaning it, and you start even looking at it and smell it and see what is this actually, how does it really works. And when you start thinking of that, you also change your lifestyle a little bit because you have a better awareness and you have a better understanding for the problem of waste. And depending on what kind of country you are living in, from the zero waste movement side, we say there should be no incineration, which is stupid to burn up resources, and there should not be any landfill because we should be able to take care about almost all the waste in one way or another. So, number one, start to think about your consumption. Number two, if you're going to segregate waste, get the organics out. Put the organics aside and do a composting of it. Don't mix it with the rest, because if you mix food and the rest of the waste, it gets greasy. You don't want to touch it and it starts smelling. So keep it, the organic out, and keep the other parts for recycling, whatever it is. So go to World Cleanup Day. If you want to follow or talk to me anymore, there are some points where you can see on Facebook and Twitter and so on. Worldcleanupdate.org, that is the way. And if you have more questions, we will have little question and answers later also. So thank you very much for listening, and let's do it, clean up the world. Thank you very much.
Our next speaker will be Dr. Neil Seldman from the Institute for Local Self-Reliance. Neil provides technical assistance to cities, community groups, and businesses in sustainable resource management. And he has chronicled the recycling movement for the last 50 years. He is a founding member of the National Recycling Coalition in the US and of the Grassroots Recycling Network. He'll be speaking to us today about extended producer responsibility, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Count.
Hello, everybody. My name is Neil Seldman. I work with the Institute for Local Self-Reliance in our Washington, D.C. office in the United States. I want to thank the ZWIA organization, as well as our hosts in India at the Water and Waste Management Conference, for inviting us and for allowing this presentation. My presentation will be on producer responsibility and its various aspects. I will get right into that in a moment. I just want to tell you that the Institute is a nonprofit organization started in 1974 as a community organization, and we gradually grew to a citywide in Washington, D.C., and then nationally. We only work in the United States, but we share information around the world, and we certainly learn a lot from around the world. So I will be making this presentation on my experiences and what I learned about extended producer responsibility in the United States. But I do want to refer to some new research that we just came across that involves organizing around recycling in India. And that is case studies of grassroots recycling in India by a woman by the name of Taylor Cass Talbot, and she works for Women in Informal Employment, Globalization and Organizing, Her WIGO is short, and you certainly could find them on the internet. And what she is exploring with her colleagues is how the extended producer responsibility laws and regulations can actually restrict the development of good jobs and formal enterprises in the waste picker sector of the Indian economy. Their work is worldwide, and they're doing case studies from across the world. But I just found out that they are just about to complete their case study on India, and it's being peer reviewed by their staff and should be out soon. And I will make sure that Ruth Abbey, who's the ZWIA host for this conference, gets that information to share. It's very exciting as in the United States, we are grappling with producer responsibility. And we think it's a key part in using recycling to decentralize the US economy and thereby decentralize the political system here and allow for more and more decision-making and authority at the local level. In addition to the waste sector, we work in energy, broadband, and independent business and financing. We understand that in India, the grassroots are fighting to preserve small independent farms and independent retail. And we fight the same things in the United States. And my work is to focus on the waste sector, waste and recycling sector, to show how decentralizing decision-making there impacts the rest of the economy and of course the rest of society. We believe that local control is absolutely essential for the survival of the atmosphere, of the earth, as well as the pathway to peace and justice, environmental justice and social justice for everyone. We feel that local self-reliance is the pathway, and it is also the end result of a lot of good organizing and moving forward. When it comes to local control in the United States over recycling, it's critical that we understand that Americans are in between two monopolies. There are monopolies that produce the goods, and there are monopolies in the waste sector that handle the goods, and both of them are exploiting consumers and business people and local governments. Therefore, when we look at extended producer responsibility, we have categorized it as the good, the bad, and the ugly. And my first slide is what I consider with my colleagues good EPR. And this is EPR that requires producers and producers to take back products that cannot be used cannot be recycled or repaired in the local community where the materials are sold. These materials can be toxic. They're certainly hard to recycle, and we want the industry to take them back and manage them safely. We have good examples of batteries, medical sharps, mercury switches, artificial turf, and paint. And under these regulations, the company that produces the pollution or what becomes pollution pays for the final disposal. We have what we call bad RPI, although this bad EPR is being improved. And here we're talking about mattresses, carpets, and electronic discards or e-scrap. And here EPR systems have been set up and there were loopholes in the EPR systems. In mattresses and carpets, companies benefiting from the funding were sending their products to incinerators, and that had to be changed. And also, this change is slower in coming. Most of the EPR programs for electronic scrap promote and support mass shredding of materials as opposed to repair and reuse, the machines that are still powerful enough to end the digital divide and add to economic security for low-income people and their organizations. And we really cherish reuse and repair for any number of reasons. We know that reuse and repair companies reskill people, particularly people who are hard to employ, ex-offenders, and they create good jobs with health insurance that actually reduce recidivism, that is the incidence of former convicted people going back to jail. It prevents that. In fact, in some of our programs, they have not had recidivism among workers who were incarcerated at one time at 0%. The national average is about 70% or even higher. So these good jobs are very important for economic reasons. They're very efficient. Investment in reuse pays itself back many, many times in both dollars and good jobs. Based on some data, when I get the report, I'll forward it to Ruth, an investment of $200,000 in a city of about 1 million people in the reuse sector creates about 200 times that much money in economic activity and can create thousands of jobs. So reuse and repair are very important, and EPR, EPR can help that tremendously. And it also can help make EPR inclusive, meaning it serves everyone, all the stakeholders, including swampers picking up waste and recyclables, informal sector groups as well. The ugly EPR is the use of the extended producer responsibility concept of polluter pays to take over the industry. As Mary Lou Van Deventer, one of our major network participants, pointed out, that EPR is being used by the beverage industry and the packaging industry and the plastics industry as a hostile takeover over a vibrant, decentralized industry in the United States with almost 1 million jobs and billions and billions of dollars in wages. The industry do not trust local government to pass packaging regulations. And at the state level, these local governments, who are led by organized citizens to create new rules to get to zero waste, are preempted at the state level by corporate lobbying. EPR on a national basis is a preemption for the entire nation, not just one state. So we clearly are opposed to what I'm calling ugly EPR, or the EPR that takes over the entire system away from local decision making. And I'd like to emphasize this point because in the United States, starting in the late 1960s and throughout our time now, it has been grassroots, organized citizens, small recycling companies, small businesses that have led the charge to first increase recycling and then move on the pathway to zero waste. And zero waste is the most efficient way of handling materials, and it's also the most environmentally friendly and socially just. The ultimate benefit of recycling at the local level is economic development. And at the Institute for Local Self-Reliance, we see, and many other groups see, this local development happening, even though we are facing monopolies, as I said, on both ends of the production and waste hauling and waste landfilling situation. But even though we have been thrown curves, as they say in America, in the United States, using baseball parlance, we, the recyclers, are remaining very strong and making constant progress. So much so that EPR, extended producer responsibility, is really not even necessary. Citizens are winning. Virtually every major corporation that sells consumer goods in the United States has now pledged by, I believe, 2025, between 2025 and 2030, to have zero waste packaging. That is, the citizens who are voting, using their voting power to pass local laws and using their consumer power to buy products and packages that they want, are forcing these companies to voluntarily undertake zero waste packaging. They don't have to form their own corporation and take over the whole industry. We can do that through the democratic process. And there are many, many new rules. In fact, Zero Waste Associates, one of the key groups in the United States, has put together a great report published by the US EPA showing the hundreds of local laws that have been passed throughout the country at the local level promoting recycling and zero waste. Some of these tools, I can't mention them all: minimum content, unit pricing, bans on single-use plastics, surcharges and taxes, buy recycle programs, and of course, bottle bills, container deposits. And the last thing I'll say, let me just also point out that dual stream recycling is coming back as well, because as we know, single stream recycling leads to just too much contamination. Let me end by saying that the confrontations, the political battles on EPR are going to be coming to a head. They are coming to a head in this year and next year, 2021 and 2022. And the point that we like to make is that EPR can be a very good thing for hard to recycle items and toxic items. And EPR can also be very good for the traditional recycling sector: bottles, cans, paper, etc. The key is using an extended producer responsibility that is inclusive. And the way to do that is not to turn over the industry to the industry giants, but to tax the industry giants, the financial cost of cities and counties handling their materials, whether their materials are waste or recycling. That management is very, very expensive. It needs trained people, it needs oversight people, it needs environmentally sound facilities, etc. And by taxing or surcharging the industry, it becomes a polluter pays concept, which EPR was designed to do, but it doesn't give the power to the corporations to keep on their modest and not very good recycling policies. It allows the government, with citizen participation and small business participation, to invest in their programs, improve their programs, expand their programs, and make their programs inclusive. Because when the public government has money to do these things, it has to share it with everyone. When corporations get their hands on this money, they don't have to share it with anyone, and they can continue to promote policies that really exclude the lower end of the workforce. And as it was explained to me in the case study in India, it will allow waste pickers not only to participate as waste pickers, but it would allow waste pickers to get the capital they need to form their own cooperative companies, both in collection, processing, and even in manufacturing. About 40 years ago, I spent several weeks in landfill in Colombia, in Medellin, Colombia, in South America, and I saw firsthand how people come together under difficult circumstances to form cooperatives and move forward politically and economically. There are tremendous barriers. There are criminal crime barriers. There are prejudicial barriers. But an EPR system that uses corporate money to give to local governments to distribute fairly and efficiently money for programs that extract valuable materials from the waste stream and allow local agents, local government, as well as local small companies to add value. And that is the way for economic progress as well as social justice for all. My conclusion, by the way, in that report to the World Bank on Medellin was that if these waste pickers in the landfill had capital, they not only can become formal businesses with formal payrolls, etc., but their children will be freed from working in the landfill and move into educational systems. With that, I want to thank again our hosts in India and of course Zero Waste International Alliance for working with them to create this program. Thank you for your time.